welcome to episode 255 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today I'm going to share with you what I've been making in the last couple of weeks. So today I have some knitting, some crochet, some sewing. I have a question from the Ask Me Anything thread on the Ravelry group. I have some confessions, oh dear. Quite a lot of confessions, just be warned. I have some information in my what's occurring section, which is the news. I'm going to bring back the what's occurring title instead of just calling it news, because it's more exciting, isn't it? And then we've got the shop update and a little appearance from Jensen at the end of the video. But let's get on with the knitting, shall we? So I have a finished object on. I'll stand up so that you can see it a little bit better. So this is the Tegna. So last time I showed you this had been knitted. Liz has knitted most of the top, and then I've gone in and finished the neckline and the sleeves there, but Liz knitted the most of this, and I showed it on the last podcast and it looked really short. Now I have blocked it and made it a little bit longer, which is lovely, and it's worked out perfectly, I think. So it's stretched a couple of inches with the blocking, and now it's got that little bit of drape and the lace has opened all up. I think it's really lovely and I'm really pleased with this. So this is knitted in my own hand dyed yarn, in that I have Nothing colourway that's inspired by the Whitney Houston song. And I thought 2 skeins would be lovely to make a Tegna finally. And the lace on this pattern is absolutely stunning. I love it. And because this is so sort of fluted at the bottom, I could get away with a smaller size at the top. So I'll give you a bit of a twirl. So the Tegna is available in sizes extra small up to 3XL. Now extra small is for a 35.5 inch bust, that is 90 centimetres, and it goes up to 63.5 inches for the 3XL, or 161 centimetres. Now I chose the size medium, which would be smaller than the recommended, because they say to have 5 to 10 inches of positive ease, and I've basically had negative ease. So that it's nice and fitted at the top, because I hate tops that are really baggy at the top here. So I went for the smaller size, and then I figured that because it flutes out so much at the bottom anyway, that'll account for my hips, so that'll be fine, and I think it has worked really nicely. So the medium is a 43.25 inch bust, or 110 centimetres. Now my bust actually measures 44 inches at the widest point, so I was going down 3/4 of an inch there, but I think 3/4 of an inch negative ease isn't too bad. So that's a 3/4 of an inch tight around the bust, so it's nice and fitted. I just didn't want this bit to be too loose at the top here. So my upper bust is 38 inches, so I do have quite sort of narrow shoulders compared to my bust size, so I do like to keep it quite small for my shoulders. So I did check that the hem circumference on the pattern says 62 inches, so I knew then that was going to be plenty big enough to go over my hips, even on the smaller size. The length of the body is supposed to come up 14 inches, and it was 14 inches before blocked, but now it's about 16 inches for me, so I was able to make it 2 inches bigger from blocking, but that's because I used a merino yarn, because merino yarn is notorious for stretching during blocking, so I was able to just have it knit it a smaller size and then stretch it during blocking. The sleeve circumference is 11 inches. I didn't worry about that too much because I've literally not even knitted any of the sleeve. I just did the rib straight onto the arm rather than doing the, I think there's a few inches of sleeve there supposed to be in the pattern, but I just wanted it to be a nice short sleeve t-shirt. And obviously the sleeve length says 4 inches on the pattern here as well, so it tells you all the measurements in a little table, which is useful. It comes with a little diagram as well. Just excuse my scruffy paperwork, but there you go, you get the idea how the pattern is broken down into sizes, and that's really great. When you're choosing your size, you can work out which size you want to pick according to the fit that you want. So like I said, it's supposed to have 5 to 10 inches of positive ease, and in the photo photographs you can see that it's supposed to be really nice and baggy all over, but like I said, I like it to be fitted over the shoulders. Because it was 62 inches over at the hip, I just thought that would be absolutely fine. Once it's blocked out, it'll fit nicely up here, and the length will be nice length once it's blocked, with it being merino yarn. Now, actually, if you look at it, I do have a slight, it's very slightly shorter at the front compared to the back because of my bust. I could have done some short row increases there just to give a bit of extra length, but Liz was knitting it and she just basically knit the main body of the top as per instructions. So literally I didn't have to modify it before I gave it to her to do. And then when I've just come along and done the neckline and the sleeves, I've just used the same instructions, apart from I've missed some actual plain stockinette stitch for the arm. There was some decreases in that as well. But there we go. I did do the first row of decreases just to when you start off, and then I went straight into the rib, just because I liked the look of just this sort of a capped sleeve really. Then I can wear it like a 3/4 length sleeve t-shirt underneath in the sort of cooler months, but I can wear it in the summer as well, because I do tend to run a little bit hot. But isn't that lace gorgeous? I absolutely love it. What I should have done really is put it on Barbara so that you can see this lace a bit better. But there you go, isn't that pretty? Really pleased with how that's come out. Liz said she absolutely loved knitting the lace bit on the bottom of this top. So she said actually it was also really good because you get the lace bit over with because it's knitted bottom up. You knit up here and then up at the back, and then you join at the sleeves. And then you've got this bit here is actually knitted with the body section, so even though it looks like a sleeve, it's sort of a small grown on cap sleeve. So there we go, that is the first finished object I've got to show you. I have another finished object. Now I almost finished these on the last episode, to be honest. This is the Contrast Blast socks by Stephen West, and they are really gorgeous, aren't they? Although I do have some issues with fitting a little bit. So I cast on the size 3, which is 84 stitches for the leg, and this leg part fitted really nicely. Now I normally have, I normally do about 64 stitches when I do a 2.5mm needle, but because this was 2.25mm needles and there was going to be a lot of details, I stuck to the size that Stephen suggested for the leg. I then carried on with the heel flap and picked up the same amount of stitches for that size, and I thought, oh, I can just carry on decreasing to make it a little bit smaller around this foot bit here, because I've got sort of chunky legs and a narrower foot. So I did that, and I do find that because I picked up the amount of stitches he suggested for this size that I did for the leg, that it is a little bit sort of gapey here. I thought once it was blocked, the bit of cable down the side of the foot might take up that sort of little bit of excess, but it's still a little bit loose. But to be honest, it keeps on nicely because this bit fits nicely, and this bit here fits nicely as well. So I decreased down to the next size down, which was, I think, was 72 stitches, which was the size 2, and I carried on with the pattern. Now, because I decreased on the sort of bottom of the foot, I did enough pattern for the size 3, but there was less stitches around the bottom, so the pattern on mine goes over the foot a little bit more than that size on the foot would be normally. And because I've got a relatively short foot, I only completed this part of the pattern. There was another section of this step section at the end if you did have a large foot as well. I do find actually that once I'd got to the decreases down to the size 2 size, this fitted really nice and snug on my foot, and I really liked the toe detail as well. So there's a rib effect on the toe as well, which fits really nicely. I enjoyed doing that, and I liked how this bit fitted. It's just that it was a little bit baggy here. The only thing is, but obviously because it was a surprise knit along, because I couldn't sort of see what exactly the pattern was going to be and sort of gauge exactly whether that was going to be too loose, I wasn't able to sort of think ahead. Although I've never had the issue of it being too big here before, so I just carried on with Stephen's instructions. But that's just because I've got big fat cankles, a skinny little foot. It's not Stephen's fault at all. Obviously you get used to knitting socks in the way you normally do, and then Stephen's got his sort of plan, and he's probably got a similar size leg to his foot because he's a big tall man with quite large feet, so he wouldn't have had that issue. But it's absolutely a problem of my shape, my body shape, and not the pattern at all, I think. But isn't that fun? I love the way the patterns sort of changing on each section, and it was a lot of fun to have a go at. Love the different patterns up here, and this heel. Oh, this heel detail is really, really pretty. So I'm glad I had a go at them. And I will be doing them next year. I'll just make sure that I pay attention to how many stitches I pick up down the heel flap here. I probably could have just followed the instructions for the next size down in terms of picking up stitches down here, and then it would have been absolutely perfect. But I've always in the past just decreased more on the decreases down here rather than worrying about picking up a different amount of stitches. But there we go, that is my Contrast Blast socks by Stephen West. Oh, I forgot to say, the yarn I'm using is a set that I dyed up myself. This is called Paradise, and it's a really nice bright pink and a minty green colour. I do have these sets in the shop still, so the sets that I dyed up were 100 grams of each, and they are still available in the shop if you're interested. I have a few other different colourways that I designed specifically for this Makalong. So there we go, that is my second finished object. I have a work in progress. Now, I was digging in my whips, and I found that I'd got a pair of socks, well, it wasn't quite a pair yet, that weren't finished. So my mum had knitted for me a tube with this sock yarn. This is an opal sock yarn, and this colourway is opal 11152 in the Twin Summit colourway. I did have some in my shop, but it's all sold out, I'm afraid. So I had a big tube of this, and I have split it into 2 pairs of socks, although I haven't finished the socks yet. So I had a tube with cuffs on both ends that Mum knitted. I split them into 4 pieces, and I have knitted the toes on the one set with the cuffs on, and I have started doing the heel, an afterthought heel on the first pair. Now I have a tutorial on how I split a whole sock tube into 2 pairs of socks. That's 100 grams sock tube, knitted, so you can sit and like watch the telly and go to the cinema or whatever, and not have to worry about heels, and you can just keep knitting and then cut into it afterwards. So this makes 2 pairs of socks from a 100 gram ball. Obviously if you have larger feet you'll end up with a lot shorter sock, so beware of that. You might want to adjust the length of your tube if you do have quite large feet, but for a UK size 6 or 5 to 6 I can get 2 pairs of socks out of a 100 gram sock tube. But it's great fun, and it's not as scary as you think cutting into the stitches. You should just try it. I will leave a link to both of those tutorials. It's part 1 and part 2 up in the corner up here, or in the description bar down below. You can see that I've obviously done a true afterthought heel, and I'm knitting in the round to do the heel there, and I've just got to do the second one to finish 1 pair of socks, and then I've got to do the cuffs, toes and heels on these. Although I was looking at them and thinking, maybe I should have a pair of mittens out of this, so I could potentially cut into it and make a thumb instead. Might do that. I could make a tutorial about it as well if I actually go ahead with it. But those would be really good, being quite a long gauntlet, because if I'm wearing a 3/4 length top and it's sort of in between the seasons, sort of like spring or autumn where it's not that cold to wear a coat, that might be useful. So let me know what you think. So that is all my knitting that I've got to show you, but I do have some crochet. Now my crochet is a little bit pitiful because I haven't finished any proper piece. So I've made 2 arms and 2 legs of Esme the fox. I have made the body, which isn't stuffed yet, so it's all sort of squashed in. And I've also made the head section, but obviously none of this is stuffed yet, so you can't really get the gist of what the fox looks like. What I did with the head is that I ran the opposite colour underneath the stitches as I was doing the crochet, and you can see it through the opposite colour a little bit. So I don't know whether I might crochet that again, but I'll see. I can always have a go, and then I can always finish the head and just see what it looks like, and I can always crochet it again if I'm not happy. But this is sort of the nose section, and that's the sort of head bit. But I've got to add some eyes and a little nose, and I've got to crochet the ears and the tail yet. So he's not quite finished, or she. It's Esme the fox. I'll pop a picture up here what it's supposed to look like in the end, and I'm crocheting this for Jensen. Although he's not massively keen on stuffed toys, I think it'll look brilliant in his sort of forest themed bedroom, and hopefully he'll love it when it's finished. I have got another purchase in my confessions section which is related to these Toft kits. So the yarn that comes in the Toft kits is, well, you can buy different weights, but this one is DK. I've used a cream and a toffee, I was going to say flavoured yarn then. And they come in these little balls like this. I've got 1 ball left of toffee, and there was only 1 ball of the cream anyway. There's only little bits of the cream used in this pattern, and they always seem to give you these really cute little fabric bags, which is absolutely lovely. So this kit, or the yarn and the bag, were purchased at the East Anglia Yarn Festival, and I've purchased another one at the Festival of Quilts, which was lovely to see them there. So that is my crochet that I've got to show you. I'll talk about my confessions in a minute, so a bit more about crochet, but now I've got my sewing section, and I have been sewing up some knickers. So I have got fabrics left over from making t-shirts with. Now, if you watched last week's episode, you'll know that I made a t-shirt out of this fabric, and it was the Gable t-shirt by Jennifer Lauren Handmade, and I had quite a bit of this left. So I had 1 metre of this fabric, but it was a very wide fabric, so I was able to cut a pair of knickers out of it. And I have got quite a stash of stretchy lace, because I always used to make my own knickers, and I hadn't made them for a while, and I thought, you know what, it's a shame to waste this jersey fabric, so I'll make some knickers out of them. So the pattern I used, I actually drafted it myself, or sort of. I copied a pair of Marks and Spencer's knickers, and I just cut off a little bit of length off the body because they were too long. I'm quite short in the body, so what I did was I actually had a pair of full briefs from Marks and Spencer's, and they always seemed too long. I just cut off 1 inch off the pattern piece that I traced from the knickers. So I got a piece for the front, a piece for the back, and then I had the crotch piece. I cut out 2 of those, and I did a sort of, what do you call it? A sort of burrito method to sandwich that crotch bit in the centre. These obviously haven't been worn yet. And I just assembled it as I've assembled them before. So I've made knickers before from a variety of patterns. I think I had some patterns, oh gosh, I can't remember the pattern designer that I had. I did a local class in Norwich City about underwear making, and then I've done quite a few of the Evila Louve patterns. She's on Instagram and also on Etsy as well. She may have her own website now, I'm not sure, but she's got quite a few underwear patterns, and I know that Evila Louve did a collaboration with Tilly and the Buttons as well to do an underwear pattern called the Iris knickers. I also want to have a go at. So if you are looking for some knickers to have a sew, the Iris knickers by Tilly and the Buttons and Evila Louve are a good start, I think, because I know that the Evila Louve ones I've done before have worked really well. But because I just loved the fit of the Marks and Spencer's pants, besides the fact they were a bit long, I just decided to copy those. So I did the burrito method to put the crotch in, and then I laid lace over the different panels before I joined the sides up, sewed those on with some zigzag stitch, You can see on the inside of the knickers, I've got 2 rows of zigzag here. So rather than actually cutting away into the fabric like you normally would when you apply lace, I've just left it on and done 2 rows of zigzag stitch. And there we go. And then I just joined the side panels with my overlocker, and then I folded over the seam and I top stitched just over the lace there, just to keep it nice and flat with the zigzag stitch, of course. And I've just stitched a little bow on it just to finish them off. So those were made out of the fabric that I got left over from my gable top, but I'd got 1.5 meters that I'd made a Concord t-shirt, a cashmerette pattern, out of this floral material. I had 3/4 length sleeves, and I'd got 1.5 meters to do the sort of 3/4 length sleeve, but that meant that I got quite a bit of leftover. So I got 2 pairs out of that one. So I'd got some pink lace to go with it, which I thought was lovely. And I also got this turquoise lace, and I think actually the favourite pair out of these 3 is the one with the turquoise lace and the bright pink bow, because I think that really brings out the fabric nicely. And it's actually quite interesting how different the fabric looks on the sort of main body of the pants with the different coloured lace. So there we go, we have 3 new pairs of underwear out of fabric that was just left over from projects. So that's absolutely brilliant. I'm excited to start wearing now. I've been holding on to them obviously so that I can show you on the video. I'm hoping to make more of these when I make a top. I'm hopefully make them at the same time to use up that fabric rather than it just laying in the stash or being thrown away. So I'm on to my next section now, Ask Me Anything. I've got a question from the Ravelry group. If you've got a question and you don't use Ravelry, you can always pop over an email to crafthousemagik@gmail.com and I'll answer your question on the next podcast. So Debs said crochet is something that she's done quite a lot before, but she's a new knitter. She taught herself to knit the knit and purl stitches, and she's able to do that on straight needles, but she wants to progress to working in the round. She's asking me which method for a beginner knitter do I suggest for knitting sort of hats or socks. Does she use DPNs or magic loop? Now I think it is quite a personal thing about which one you choose. Now if you want something that's a sort of a very easy next step up, I'd go for a 16-inch circular needle with 4-inch tips. Knit a hat, and that means that you're just knitting round and round and round, and you're not having to deal with any corners or turns or edges. So that's the easy option. And then you've obviously got the DPN or magic loop choice. Now I think it really just depends on what experience you've had with needles before. Now I know my mum just loves DPN needles. She finds them much easier because of her experience with using straight needles previously. She'd never really used much circular needles, so she just sticks with the DPNs because they're sort of more similar to using just a straight needle, I think. But Adam, because I taught him how to sort of knit socks, I actually started him off with magic loop. He did have a bit of a go with the DPNs, but he really struggled with them. But he picked up the actual magic loop method better. But it really does depend on what you think your head gets round easier, if that makes sense. The actual method itself is similar in complexity, I think. The issues with you've got DPN needles is that you might sort of drop them. You might have, if you're a loose knitter, if your needles are very slippy, they might fall out of your work, and you just have to be a little bit careful about where the needles meet. You have to keep your tension quite equal. Same issue with the magic loop method. You just have to be careful about the tension on the edges. So you still have sort of issues to sort of overcome with both methods. So it really is how your brain wraps around the technique. I actually personally started with DPN needles just because I didn't know about magic loop at the time. So maybe if you started on straight needles, it might be worth just trying with the DPNs just to see how you get on. So now I have my confessions. Oh my goodness. I bought quite a lot at the Festival of Quilts last week. Actually, there's not that much fabric. There's still too much though. First of all, I bought some jersey, because first of all, jersey does not count in your stash, and it is this gorgeous pink, so I had to have this. That would actually work really nicely as a t-shirt to go under this top as well. we shall see. I only bought a metre of this just to do a small t-shirt actually, so I probably wouldn't be able to get a 3/4 length out of this piece, but I haven't actually measured the width of it, so if it's a super wide I might be able to get a longer sleeve out. But that's 1 metre of sort of fuchsia coloured pink fabric. In terms of fabric, I also purchased this set, which is a Tilda set of fabrics, and it is, oh gosh, I think it's called Homestead or something like that. It might say on one of these selvages. Oh, this one hasn't got a selvage, but this is sort of the main print that drew me in. It's got these lovely pretty ladies on, and it's again got that sort of fuchsia pink colourway in it. I won't show you them all, but these two are my favourites out of this range, and I had actually put this on my sort of wish list in my mind a few months ago, so that's something that I really wanted. And when I saw it in the pile of Tilda fabrics, I thought, right, going to treat myself to that, as we're at a show of course. And those are 5 fat quarters that I can put together in a project. So that is the first lot of fabric I got, and then this is the fabric that I sort of had in my mind that I was going to go and get before I even arrived at the Festival of Quilts. It is my stash of Liberty fabrics. Now, I have done quite a bit of sort of English paper piecing lately, and I wanted to increase my stash of Liberty fabrics because I find them easier to put around the paper pieces or the Ashmead pieces, just to get a nice neater finish. I think I get a more accurate hexagon or different shape. So I went and had a bit of a rummage. This is from the Alice Caroline stall, and you could pick. Each piece of this was £1, so I spent £31 on all these little pieces of fabric. Some of them are bigger than others. I think this one is a smaller one, but you know, I saw this and I just could not resist. I picked all my favourite ones. Some pieces are larger than others. This one I think is slightly bigger. But they're ideal for doing English paper piecing with. So I've got a nice range of different colours there. So I've got a stash to pick from when I'm doing my English paper piecing. But I just loved all the Liberty prints, absolutely gorgeous. I must have spent an hour looking at the Alice Caroline stall, rooting through all these gorgeous Liberty fabrics. I'll show you a couple that were my very favourites. Oh, this one, I'm going to see actually if I can get a piece to make a top out of this, because I think that would be absolutely stunning. Isn't it gorgeous? There's some blues as well, of course, because I do love a blue. Little flowers on, and I got some mustard pieces as well. So there we go. That is just a few of the gorgeous stash of Liberty fabrics. Now I've messed all my pile up, but there you go. That is all the fabrics that I purchased, so that wasn't too bad. I did purchase some yarn, as I mentioned before. I did get another Toft kit. This is going to be for an elephant. I'll pop a picture up here what the elephant looks like. It's from Edward's Menagerie. I think it's the original book that was released. But I got 3 sort of mid-greys. This is called Shale in colourway 20257. That's the dye lot, I think. I've got some thread on there, but that is a sort of mid-grey. I was torn between the sort of lighter grey and the darker grey, because the lighter grey had more sort of flecks of different colours in, so I was sort of drawn to that more than the darker grey. But then I saw this mid-grey and I thought that would be a nice perfect sort of compromise between the two. So 3 balls of that ready to make an elephant, and I did get one of those Toft bags as well, which is lovely. I bought a packet of template plastic, which is not very exciting but always very useful for doing templates of new designs. I go through that quite quickly, and that was from the Quilted Bear stall. This is from the Quilted Bear as well, and this is the Add a Quarter ruler. Now this is the new version. I have got an older version of one of these. They're quite expensive. This was £10.99. This one has, so it's got quarter like a ridge with a 1/4 inch, so you can add that onto when you're doing foundation piecing. And then there's a sharper ruler edge here that you can tear against, which is really useful, with an inch measurement as well down that side. So I wanted to try one of those, so that might be a gadget in future episodes, we shall see. So that was £10.99, so that was quite expensive, but I think I'll use that quite a lot for foundation piecing. So I have some printing blocks from the Indian block print company, and they gave me a cute little fabric bag to go with my block prints. There is going to be some crinkling now, because if I keep them in the plastic I can hold them up to the screen a little bit better. I did buy quite a lot of these. So I've got those and those and these ones and these ones as well. So these are going to be bags for future shop updates. So these will print on some bags that I'll probably do some free motion stitching on as well. But they are, each of them is a nice solid piece of wood, and they are carved in India, and there's some really nice patterns. I've got some autumn bags planned and leaves are always very useful, so I bought a number of those. I did spend possibly just over £100 on these stamps, because I could justify it by saying, well, it's going to be something for the shop when I print on some bags. But you know, and they did actually give me a printing mat free with that, so that was really good, and they did give me a little bit of a discount for spending so much as well, so I felt very pleased with myself. So I did buy quite a lot of those. And then lastly, I did make a purchase from Lena Patchwork, but actually I did this online, and I also purchased some things from Ashme Designs as well, but that hasn't arrived yet, and that was online because they didn't have the things that I wanted at the show. They probably ran out because it was at the end of the day once I got to the stall. Lena Patchwork, I must have gone past the stall. Apparently it was there, but I didn't see it, and then I went back online and ordered some things. I got some triangle paper pieces and a little template, and you can see them in the back there. I got some diamonds, half hexagons, some jewels and hexagons as well, and these are all inch sizes to put together. And I also bought some magnetic fabric grips. I've just taken one out of here to try, and these are to use instead of sort of clips to keep fabric together. And you have a magnet, very strong, that's got the magnet with plastic on the top, which has hemline on, and then you have a metal piece that you put on the back of your work to hold those together. So they're there for a really thick fabric to hold them together when you're sewing, and you can use these for EPP as well, so I'm going to have a go with that. I'm not sure whether that's going to be a bit strong for that purpose, but this is a really strong magnet actually, and I think that'll hold on really tightly to really thick fabrics, even through the fabric itself. So I'm going to try those out and let you know how I get on. And also from Lena Patchwork, I've bought some different colours of 80 thickness of cotton thread for doing English paper piecing, because I thought I'd try going back to the cotton threads rather than using the Deco Bob, which is a really fine sort of polyester thread. I thought I'd just try going back to the cotton, because sometimes the Deco Bob is a little bit slidey, so I thought I'd try some of this as well. So I've bought some Aurifil in 4 different sort of shades. I've got like a beigey, a light grey, dark grey and a cream to have a go at that. And these are lovely because they're wooden spools, which is really cute. So those will go into my bag for my English paper piece. I think that is all my confessions. It's rather a lot. So I'm on to my what's occurring section. So what's occurring actually derived from Gavin and Stacey, which is sort of a Welsh programme that used to be on quite a few years ago, and the one lady used to say what's occurring in like a Welsh accent, which is brilliant. So as I've got a bit of Welsh heritage in me, I thought I'd add that section into the podcast. So what's occurring is that last week I uploaded a video on the Festival of Quilts. So if you haven't seen that and you want to have a look what the Festival of Quilts is like, pop over and watch that. I'll leave a link in the top bar and also in the description bar down below. And if you could always just go to my YouTube channel, click videos and it'll be in the last couple of videos. Next week I'm going to do a tutorial on how to pick up stitches when you've dropped a stitch in your knitting. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I've got a pair of socks that I need to repair, so I thought I'd do that on video. It's a pair of socks that I knitted Adam actually, and somehow I've managed to drop a stitch. So I'm going to mend that on camera and show you how I do it. So that's going to be the video for next week. And I wanted to just mention the Makalongs going on the Ravelry group and on Instagram. We've got craft 20 a day, working on those bigger projects a little bit each day. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes, it's just what I used to use. I haven't been able to do my 20 minutes a day on my long-term projects at the moment, just because it's difficult to fit everything in with Jensen. But it is a good method of getting those big projects finished. So I will be drawing prizes at the end of September and the end of December for that one, because that runs all through the year. And it's one of those make-alongs where you just drop in, put some photos up of your progress, and it's just a chatty thread. The more you put in there, the more likely you are to win a prize. The summer sock along is going on until the end of this month. Again, both these make-alongs are on Ravelry and on Instagram, and I'll leave hashtags in the bottom for Instagram and links to the Ravelry groups as well. But the summer sock along, it can be any sock at all, whether it's adult or children, short sock, long sock, any sock is included. If you did one of the Stephen West mystery sock alongs, come and join it. Show us what your finished projects look like. You can actually put works in progress as well. It's a chatty thread, not just finished objects. And I will be drawing prizes for those in August for the summer sock along and in September for craft 20 a day. So I'm now on to my shop update section. So we have the advent calendars in the shop, and there are a few left. So if you do want one, pop over to the shop and you can purchase one. I've got a number of different choices of bases, including superwash and non-superwash yarns, merino, stellina, and I've got some DK in there as well. So hopefully there's enough choice. If you do have a base that you would rather see in the shop, do let me know and I'll see what I can do. The August yarn clubs are in the shop and available for pre-order until Sunday. So if you do want to purchase them, make sure you purchase it before Sunday. They will be shipped in the middle of next week. So those are the August yarn clubs. There will be the music from the movies action adventure edition, which is the sock club, but you can also have it as a shawl set, because 2 months are supposed to go together. July and August designed to go together. And then we've got the mixtape minis, which are a set of minis designed to go together, and you've got different sizes of yarns and different bases for that as well. So that is all for my shop update. Now it's over to you, Jensen. So these are my Stephen West socks on my feet. I thought I'd show you. It doesn't actually look that loose here, and they fit enough on the other parts of my foot to hold them, so I don't think that being loose is going to make a lot of difference. Jensen is coming to supervise my socks. What do you think of my socks, Jensen? Hey? Are you all cuddly? You going to look at my socks? Tell me what you think. What do you think of the socks, Jensen? Oh, you're giving Daddy a hug now? What about my socks? Do they need a hug? Oh, you're giving my socks a hug. Oh. Are they nice? I think he likes them. He's tickling my feet. Are you tickling my feet? Ooh. I'm glad you like them. Look at your hair. I'm glad you like my socks. We'll have to knit you some. Ah. Jensen, are you going to say bye-bye to the camera? Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye.